She had worked behind that counter for 5 years, polite, precise, and proud of every dollar she earned. But one ordinary morning, a single receipt changed everything. A customer's complaint turned into whispers. Whispers turned into accusations, and within hours, Neela was out of a job. No one asked her side. No one checked the cameras. They just saw her skin and made their decision. But what the footage revealed later, it didn't just clear her name, it exposed something much bigger. Nyla wasn't just another cashier. She was the heartbeat of the store. Every customer knew her by name, from the morning rush of coffee drinkers to the elderly woman who came in just to talk. Her bright smile could soften even the hardest days, and her meticulous care for every detail made her stand out. For 5 years, she'd shown up early, stayed late, and handled every shift with quiet pride. The grocery store wasn't glamorous, but to Nyla, it was stability, something rare in her life. She had grown up watching her mother juggle 2 jobs, always reminding her, "Respect and hard work will take you far." Nyla lived by that. She dreamed of saving enough to start her own small bakery one day, and this job was supposed to be her first stepping stone. But lately, things had started to feel different. A new manager had taken over, a man named Greg Winters. He rarely smiled, spoke sharply, and often watched Neela longer than anyone else. Sometimes she caught him standing by the security monitors, frowning whenever she interacted with customers. Other times, she'd overhear him questioning how certain employees handled money. Still, Nyla brushed it off. She wasn't about to let one man's attitude ruin her focus. She believed her record spoke for itself. Not a single complaint, not a single mistake. But that Friday morning, the tone in the air felt heavier than usual. Greg lingered by the registers longer than normal, glancing between Nyla and the screen in front of him. The hum of the store carried on as usual. Scanning beeps, small talk, laughter. No one knew it yet. But within hours, this ordinary shift would become the storm that tested everything Nyla believed about fairness, truth, and justice. The morning rush had just begun when it happened. Nyla was ringing up a regular customer, an older man who always joked about buying too many snacks, when she noticed Greg watching from the corner. His arms were crossed, eyes locked on her every move. She tried to ignore it, focusing on the beep of the scanner and the soft hum of the air conditioner overhead. But something in his stare made her uneasy. Minutes later, a woman in a blue coat approached, irritated. She waved a crumpled receipt in Nyla's face. "There's a mistake on this," the woman snapped. "You charged me twice for milk." Nyla stayed calm, checking the register history. She hadn't handled that transaction. The timestamp showed it was from another lane, another cashier. But before she could explain, Greg appeared, standing just inches away. "What's the problem here?" he asked, loud enough for nearby customers to turn their heads. The woman repeated her complaint. Greg didn't even look at the screen. He turned directly to Nyla. "Did you do this?" Nyla blinked. "Sir, it wasn't—" "Don't make excuses," he cut her off. "We'll handle this in the office." The tone was final, cold. And in that moment, every eye in the store seemed to follow her as she walked toward the back. Inside the manager's office, the air was heavy with silence. Greg sat behind the desk, scrolling through the register logs. "This isn't the first time something's off," he said. "Short tills. Incorrect entries. Missing coupons." Neela's heart pounded. "Sir, I've never—" He slammed the mouse down. "Don't lie to me. The customer said you rang her up, and I've seen the numbers." Tears welled in her eyes. "Please, check the cameras. You'll see I wasn't—" But he stood up, cutting her off again. "You're done here, Nyla. Turn in your badge and apron." The words hit like a physical blow. No proof, no review, just accusation and dismissal. As she walked out, the break room door creaked open. Silence fell among her co-workers. A few whispered, some looked away. The sound of the register beeps continued, indifferent to what had just happened. Nyla stepped into the parking lot, eyes burning. Her mind replayed every second. The customer's tone, Greg's glare, the disbelief that no one had stood up for her. She wanted to scream. She wanted someone to care. That evening, she sat at her kitchen table, the termination paper trembling in her hands. Violation of company policy. That's all it said. No details. No explanation. Her phone buzzed. A message from her friend and coworker, Lisa. "Nyla, I think you should see something." Lisa sent a short video clip, recorded quietly from her phone at the security desk earlier that day. It showed Greg talking to the store's assistant manager, pointing at the monitors, specifically at Nyla's register. Then, a second later, he switched camera views, highlighting another lane, the one with the customer in the blue coat. And there, clear as daylight, the footage showed another employee handling that transaction. Nyla froze, her breath caught halfway. The proof was right there, but Greg had already fired her. And worse, he'd made it clear she wouldn't be coming back. She leaned back, her hands trembling, the anger rising like a fire inside her. If the cameras could clear her name, maybe they could expose something bigger. The next morning, Nyla walked back into that store, not as an employee, but as a woman who refused to stay silent. She had spent the night replaying the footage over and over, each frame fueling her determination. Lisa had warned her, "He'll deny everything." But Nyla didn't care anymore. This wasn't about getting her job back. It was about proving that the truth still mattered. The moment she stepped inside, the air shifted, conversations quieted. Greg looked up from his office window, his expression tightening. She approached the counter, phone in hand, trembling. Not from fear this time, but from anger. "Greg," she said, her voice steady. "You need to see this." He rolled his eyes. "You're not supposed to be here." "I told you," she interrupted him. "You accused me of stealing. You humiliated me. But the cameras saw everything." She hit play. The tiny screen reflected in his widening eyes the footage of the real employee handling that customer's receipt, the one Greg claimed Nyla had falsified. A silence deeper than shock filled the room. A few employees gathered, watching, whispering. Greg's face drained of color. This doesn't prove—" "It proves enough," Nyla said. "You fired me without checking." "Because you didn't want to check." A corporate district manager who happened to be visiting that day stepped closer, drawn by the commotion. "What's going on here?" Lisa spoke up from behind. "She's showing what really happened." The manager took the phone, replayed the clip, and looked at Greg, the weight of corporate policy and public scandals settling in his eyes. Greg stammered. It was a misunderstanding, but the manager's tone was cold. "No, it was discrimination. And it's all on record," the crowd murmured. Phones began to record, and Greg stepped back, cornered by his own arrogance. Nyla felt the weight of weeks of humiliation lift off her shoulders. She didn't shout. She didn't gloat. She simply turned to leave. But as she reached the door, Greg's voice cracked behind her. "You'll regret this." She didn't even turn around. "I already did," she said. And for the first time, she walked out free. The following week, the corporate office issued a public statement. Nyla was reinstated with full pay, and Greg Winters was placed under investigation. To most, it looked like justice, a victory, clean and simple. But for Nyla, the scars ran deeper than any paycheck could cover. She walked back into that same store days later, greeted by polite smiles and awkward silence. The same coworkers who had looked away before now whispered apologies under their breath. The aisles were the same, the registers still beeped, but the air felt heavier, tainted by everything that had happened. Nyla didn't stay long. She handed in her badge for the last time, not in anger, but in peace, because she'd learned something far more important than her job could ever offer. That silence protects the powerful. And truth only matters when someone has the courage to speak it. The video of her confrontation had spread online, shared by customers, reposted by community pages, even picked up by a local news station. People were outraged, not just because she was wrongfully accused, but because her story felt familiar. How many times had someone been judged by the color of their skin instead of the truth in front of them? How many lives had been quietly dismantled behind company policy or misunderstandings? Nyla's story became a mirror, forcing people to look at what happens when prejudice hides behind professionalism, when racism wears a uniform and calls itself procedure. In the weeks that followed, Nyla used her voice. She spoke at community centers, helped other workers file complaints, and told her story not with bitterness, but with purpose, because she realized her fight wasn't just about a receipt or a job, it was about respect, about dignity, about the simple truth that everyone deserves to be seen as human first. And as the video continued to circulate, sparking debates and uncomfortable conversations across the country, one question lingered. If the cameras hadn't caught the truth that day, how many more mistakes like hers would have gone unseen? Don't miss more powerful real-life stories. Hit subscribe now.